Hi everyone, it's Peter Zalum's Griniflix Adventure 8 and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Megadap, one of my favorite products actually. Why is it my favorite product? It's because it's an autofocus adapter for the Nikon Z6 or the Z6 II or the Z7 or the Z7 II that enables you to put manual lenses on the camera body and make them autofocus. Megadap have just released a firmware update version 2.0, so I will go through that process just so you can understand it. There's some peculiarities about the firmware update. You need a cable, it connects to that, you need the computer, and then you've got to do some file transfers and a few little bits and pieces, which I'll go through the process so you can understand how that works. There's been a number of videos on the Megadap that I've done. Links are there somewhere below or up there. Part of that firmware update is to make the autofocus even better. I found that most lenses worked okay. There's been a bit of hunting, but you don't notice it too much on the videos. They're good for stills, obviously, because you can just use the autofocus function, get it in focus, take the shot. But where I find the Megadap really useful is for videoing and using these old manual fast lenses for my videos. So the version 2.0 actually is supposed to offer much better control over maybe some focus hunting. Like most software, things get updated all the time and things only get better. Just like Nikon has been improving its autofocus function, so too has Megadap changing the algorithms or whatever is necessary in the software so it works well with the Z mount cameras. What I'll do is I'll test some of these lenses. Now, one lens that I found that was hunting quite a bit in the previous firmware version for the Megadap was the Voigtlander 35 1.4. So I will test this lens with some of the Nikkor lenses here and just see how well it handles the change in focus, and whether there's some of that hunting there or not. So it will be interesting. Well, let's get on with the show. I'm going to be updating the firmware on my Megadap to version 2.0. So you go to megadap.net website and downloads firmware, and there are 3 versions of firmware. October 28, that's 2020, even though it doesn't show the year there. Version 1.2.1, 2nd November version 1.3.1, and 1st of February 2021 version 2.0. It's definitely the latest one. Anyway, so I've already downloaded these files. So the cable that I have is a micro USB cable, I think 2.0. Megadap don't give you a cable, so you've got to sort of work out which one it is. So it's an existing cable that I had from one of my other cameras, which was a Nikon W300, which is the rugged underwater compact camera. So you can find them on the internet for about $5 or so. Connect the cable now and connect that into the computer. It should come up just as another USB drive. If I open up that, it will come up as a window. There's nothing in there, and I'll go through this whole process. So I'll start off with the first file, which is the version 1.3.1, and I'll just copy that to the root drive. Now it's there. The capacity of this drive is very small, so you can't load up all 3. You have to do these one at a time. So the next process that you have to do is you have to exit that drive. Now, as soon as you exit that drive, it actually loads the firmware onto the Megadap adapter. And that's the important phase. So you have to go eject that drive. It ejects it, but then it appears straight away back onto your screen as it has right now. But if I open it up, that file is no longer there. If you try and load up all three files at the same time, it will say there's not enough memory to do that. So that was 1.3. I've done it in the wrong order. Let's start again. I'm going to do version 1.2.1 first, then I'll do version 1.3.1, and then I'll do version 2.0.0. And that way I've got all three versions in that order. So I'll start the process again. So now I'm just going to do 1.2.1 and I'll copy that to the root drive. So it's copied there. Now I eject that drive. Eject it. It will disappear. It reappears. So when I open up that drive, that file has disappeared. So now do 1.3.1. I'll copy that to the root drive. It's there. I eject the drive again. It disappears. It comes back to the screen. And now I put on the latest version 2.0.0. So the firmware update has been done for all three versions of the firmware update in sequential order. Now I have the Voigtlander 35mm f1.4 on the Z6 with the Megadap adapter. Now the first thing I notice is that there doesn't seem to be any hunting, and I'll go back in the screen, in the focal plane. I'll come right back here. That's all you can see. We've got the flowers, and now I'll come here, and then back, and then back here. How's that? I'll be able to come over here, come over there, back here. So the lens I got on now is the Nikkor 35mm f1.4, shooting at 1.4. Using the Megadap adapter and that extra adapter for the F mount to M mount, which I think goes on the Megadap M mount to Z mount, Z6. So I guess we'll do a similar test and just see how all this focus is doing. Moving back to the flowers again over here, and then moving closer. How's that handling it? Pretty good. So I've got the 35mm f1.4 Summilux Leica lens. How's that handling it at the different focal lengths? At the different focus points, I should say. The focal length remains the same at 35mm. I'm just moving around and seeing how the adapter is handling the autofocus. I guess when you're normally filming, you'd just be somewhere within the vicinity where it would only be doing the minor adjustments in the focus, depending on what I'm trying to express. Alright, so now I've got one of my favourite lenses on, the Nikkor 50mm f1.2 manual AIS lens, using the Megadap Auto Focus adapter. So let's see how that's handling the different focuses. The great thing about this lens, it really separates your subject from the background, so getting that focus is really important. So hats off to the Nikon Z6 or the Z body to be able to handle the 1.2 f-stop lens at 50mm. Hopefully it's doing a great job as I move around in the different focal planes. And you can see how things change when I'm back over here with the flowers and then moving up closer right over here. You got me? And then back over here. What have I got? I've got the 50mm f1.4 Summilux on the Megadap adapter, and we'll see how stable that is and how's that handling it. And if I move back over here, how's that? Is it pretty good? And then if I move back into frame over here, how's that? Doing a good job? Yes. And normally this lens only focuses down to 0.7 meters, but I guess with the Leica, with the Megadap adapter, you can actually get much closer. Yes, much closer. That would be probably the normal point that I'd be using this lens for at this distance. Now I've got the Nikkor 85mm f1.4 shooting at f1.4, and how does that look? It seems to be handling the focus. I'll move around a bit and come back here, bring up my wonderful flowers again, and then come up and move back into the focal plane. So hopefully it's got me again. Yes, I'm not sure about what's happening with the 85 1.4. Occasionally it seems to go into all sorts of focus hunting, and other times it seems to handle the focus quite well. So I think I've got plenty of lighting, that shouldn't be a problem. Anyway, so that's where I am right now with 85. Hopefully it's in focus now. Subject, grab a lens, moving around a little bit. So that's the 85 f1.4. Right, so now I've got the Nikkor 85 f1.4, but actually I've stopped it down to f2. What I found with the 85 1.4, that there was quite a bit of focus hunting going on. So at f2, let's see whether that's improved. If I come back here, how's that handling it? Or back here, how's that? And then if I come back into the scene here, how's that? Is it better? It's more stable? Or is it still trying to do that, some of that hunting? Be the final test. Now I'm going to use the Leica 90mm f2 and see how well that handles this focus. And if I move back a bit, is it going to be doing the same hunting that the 85mm f1.4 was doing, the Nikkor, or is it fairly stable? Is the question. And if I move back into this point here, is that any good? So I'm back to the version 1.3.1 firmware on the Megadap, and just seeing whether the 85 actually is more stable at 1.4 or whether it's going to be focusing all over the place. And if I go back here, so that's where I am now. And if I come back here, how's that? Is it okay? So this was version 1.3.1 with the 85mm f1.4. So to me, I'm listening to it doing all its focusing business, and it seems to be okay, I think. So that seems to be more stable than version 2.0. So I don't know what's happened with version 2.0. Now we've got the Leica 90mm f2 shooting at f2. And I'll just talk here for a while. So on version 1.3.1, So that seems to be holding the focus well. And if I move back a bit, how's that adjusting? I presume it's still okay. And if I go back a little bit more, I presume that is also okay. So at this stage, version 1.3.1 seems to be more stable with a longer focal lengths. Version 1.3.1 seems to be the one to stay on. Version 2 is not happening for me. Anyway, hope you found this video interesting. For me, it's been an eye-opener right now. I guess like with all firmware updates, you've got to test them and see whether they actually do work and whether, particularly for your use case. And for me, using the Megadap autofocus adapter with my Nikkor fast lenses, 1.2 and 1.4, and my Leica 1.4 lenses and my Voigtlander 1.4 lenses is what I want to do for my videos. So I can separate the subject from the background, and I think it provides a really good image. So I'm going to stay on version 1.3.1 with my Megadap. Has anyone else had any experience with this moving to version 2? And what sort of results are you getting? Are you finding the same thing with the wider focal lengths, 35, 50 being okay, but as soon as you go to 75, 85, 90 mil, then all of a sudden there's this focus hunting that's going on to and fro. Are you finding that also? Be interesting to find out. From Megadap also, if you contact me, they'll be fine. Or there might be a new version that comes out. But anyway, I've gone back to version 1.3.1, so if nothing else, what I've learned is that when you go to Megadap website, megadap.net, and you have the 3 versions there, you can actually go back to any one of those. So it seems to be that whatever you load, any one of those versions you load, and then eject the drive, that version is one that's going to be active. And the one that's most stable for me right now is version 1.3.1. Anyway, hope you found this video useful. Do like. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Cheers.